Greetings, greetings, greetings. Welcome to Seek Things Above TV. Good to see you all tonight. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm your host, Lou Ciccone, right here doing a live stream with
Barian Babs, Vale Ciccone. Good to see you guys. Welcome, welcome.
All right. So I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving and all that good stuff. Got to hang out with family and to enjoy fellowship and give thanks to the Lord for all the good things that he has done for us.
Amen.
Now, we want to jump right into this video. So we have a new video posted from Jonathan and Suzy Lamb. And this is a video where they are clarifying and giving us some answers to some questions that people have had during this process of watching their previous video and all of the fallout that has come out of that and the many, many reactions that multiple people have had to this video. So with that being said, let's just jump right into it, and then we will comment as we go along. Thank you all so much, and we will get to the chats momentarily. Appreciate everybody joining us this evening. Without further ado, let's hop right into this video.
Hey guys, Jonathan and Suzy Lamb here. Just wanted to take a moment and first thank everyone for your incredible support. Obviously, we've had something come to the surface that's been hidden to a very small select group of people, something that we've been walking with for several years now. And to have it just fully come out, to have the truth out there, it's really been freeing in a lot of ways because we don't have to have something that we're hiding. It's out in the open.
Yes, that's true. But also I would add that since this is such a absolutely deeply traumatic thing that we've gone through, obviously us sitting here can never fully express what we've walked through in these past few years. I mean, I don't even want to get into the process of what that looked like, but it was excruciatingly painful. So yes, there is that freedom in not having to depend on a few people and keep begging for justice and having it minimized and turned down and, just hitting a wall, like a dead end. There's peace and satisfaction now. When the story came out and the way people received it, and I felt like the floodgates of justice opened on us, when everyone validated what we as parents felt, we really wanted to do a short video. This is not the time or place that we want to get into our whole story. Jonathan and I just quickly grabbed the camera, sat down here to address a few questions. We will be doing some podcasts with amazing people and get into the nitty-gritty and the deep things. We told a few journalists our story, and then they have full control of what we've given them. We have no control. We told the truth. They do the investigation. That takes months. It takes a long time. So this is not something that just started now. This has been building. I'm proud of them for doing their due diligence. Yeah. And so I thought the reason I suggested we do this video is because I didn't realize how much it would blow up. Jonathan had kind of an idea. I genuinely didn't. And since we've been on TV so much and people have loved us so genuinely, I felt it was cruel to not answer a few questions that people who genuinely love us want these answers to.
All right, so these are 4 of the most common questions that we've got over the last few days. 1 is, why didn't we go to the police? And why did it take so long to talk? 2, why did I not put my hands on this man? And 3, why did Suzy scream for me to go up versus her just going up herself? And 4, why are we not going public?
Yeah.
So let's unpack the first question, is why didn't we go to the police? Well, we did go to the police, actually twice.
I think to answer the second question, why did you wait so long to talk? I would say let's go through the timeline, because I understand in an article, there's a bit of back and forth because it's so complex. So we'll just go.
Okay, so just to hop in here, so quickly they, made it a point to say that this video was pretty quick, something that they wanted to put together and let people know what's going on as a result of the post that they did. And Suzy made it clear that she didn't realize the magnitude, like how big this story was going to be. Says Jonathan had some kind of idea, but Suzy didn't think it was going to be this huge of a story. And it has definitely been a huge story. And I am so thankful to them for making these clarifications. They didn't have to do it, but it's helpful for us viewing it to understand, for them to add context to certain things. And so that is helpful in watching this video. And then they laid out the 4 questions. Okay, so question number 1 is, why didn't we go to the police? And why did it take so long? Okay, and then we have question number 2, which is, why did I not put my hands on this man? So he's going to answer that. Then you got question number 3, why did Suzy scream for me to go up versus her just going up herself? Okay. And number 4 is, why are we now going public? So we're about to see the answers to these questions as we go along.
Yeah, so I'm glad that they're doing this. They're putting it out there. So just to make sure everything we are sharing over here, these are just our opinions, okay? We are going to be commenting according to this video. So everything is alleged, okay? Until the courts and everything is proven otherwise. So keep that in mind. Personally, I'm glad that they're making this clarification, because some of the question is exactly what I was asking, like, okay, why now? Why didn't you do these things back then? Are you guys doing these things because you're no longer part of the empire? You're no longer part of the Star Empire? What's going on? So they have offered some answers. They've offered some clarification. So whether you are satisfied with their answers or not, at least they know that people are asking these questions. So yeah, without further ado, so let's get into it, and then we'll be discussing as we go along.
Go in a streamline. We're going to do a super concise version because this is going to be a short video. It'll all keep coming out. We have a little bit of notes here for just the main highlights. So let's pick up from where it all began. I would start with in the summer of 2020. Actually, in early spring 2020, my sister noticed my daughter's behavior being strange, stiffening up when people came close. And I started to notice that too, but I didn't take it very seriously. I thought just part of growing. And then by that summer, on a trip, we're going to be a little careful with our words here. We have to be on a trip. This man says that our daughter walked in on him in a bathroom, saw him full frontal nude. At this point, this is also new to me. I didn't really know what to do with it. I just said, okay. Since he told me, I just said, okay. And I went and checked on my child. She seemed fine. So I was like, okay. I don't know if I even told you or not that day. Then as the months start to progress, she starts to get, her behavior is changing. November of 2020, she tells me in very graphic detail that she had been molested. It was the shock of my life. I can't even explain the things that I felt. In that moment, I went to my confidant, the person I really, truly, with my whole heart trusted. That was another question. Why did you go there? It was about 5:30 in the evening. Jonathan hadn't come home from work, and I was ready to get in the car and go to the police. But this woman I really trusted said, no, we're going to talk to the teachers. When I talked to my child that day, when she told me...
Well, this woman is my mom. You can just say the name.
I know. It's still hard. It is still hard. It's easy to talk to a journalist as a one-on-one person, but going public, it genuinely hurts. These are people that we love. These are not people we're angry at or hate. Okay, sorry. I'm trying not to get emotional. So, I asked my child. I have no practice with this. I don't know what leading questions are or not. I assumed it was a school. Her world was so small. Home, school, and we'd take her to Daystar. So, I assumed it was a school. I asked her, is it at school? She was nervous and just nodding. I found out since, counselors have explained that behavior to me now, and it all adds up, it all makes sense. And I said, was it a girl or a boy? She said a boy. And I said, how tall? Trying to gauge the age. And she said, taller than daddy. That struck fear in my heart because dad is a man. A 5-year-old doesn't, know to communicate that. Okay, picking up the pace. Once that happens, we go to the school and, this confidant, the one I trusted, after we talked to the teachers and they said, there's no male here, it's almost like, okay, we've done our part, case closed. And I told Jonathan, I don't want to get talked out of this. I don't want to have a discussion with your family. Let's go to the police. We went to the police, filed our report. They did a quick little investigation since there was not much to go on. They closed the case pretty quickly because our daughter was terrified.
No
she wouldn't talk anymore.
At the school, so
a lot of things, small things happen from talking to, people processing, other family members reaching out with concerns. Things happen. We're more vigilant over our child. We get a nanny in the picture to keep her away. She's terrified to go to Daystar. We do, however, go on that family vacation in August of 2021. This is a big one. This would answer the question of, I guess the first question is, when you walked up that day, why did you not put your hands on the man?
Well, when I walked up there and I saw Pete up there with my daughter,
All right, can y'all hear us? I think we are having some technical difficulties. Not sure if y'all can hear us. Check. Can y'all hear us? Okay, yeah, I think we're back now. A little bit of a skipping going on there. So we've had the first question answered. Now we're into the question. We're really actually into question number 3 at this point, which is what they're about to answer. But we have, so question number 1, why didn't we go to the police and why did it take so long to talk? So they have clarified this by saying that they did go to the police. They did go to the police, and there was an initial, statement that was given. And because there wasn't much information, there was not much for the police to go on. And so things were not pursued any further. So that was the statement that Suzy made, because a lot of people had that question, like, when did this actually happen as far as them going to the police? So they said that this happened pretty much immediately. Once she had this, had the conversation when the daughter told her just came forth with the information, she did go to the police. And there was other people getting involved in that process of dealing with the whole situation. But this is the statement from Suzy, which gives us more clarification on that matter particularly.
So that's good. Like we said, this is good that they're clarifying. But I did not miss when Suzy was explaining the steps that she ended up taking, right? And this happened, Jonathan wasn't there. And she thought, okay, let me go to the police. But before she made that move, she ended up allegedly communicating to Jonathan's mother, allegedly, right? Because Jonathan is the one who corrected that was the mother. So my question is, why would the grandmother say, let's not go to the police? Because she didn't go to the police because that's the advice that Suzy is claiming to have received, allegedly, from the grandmother. They didn't go to the police. And Suzy assumed that it was something at the kids' school. So why is Suzy doing this investigation thinking that it was at the school? What type of investigation did the authorities conduct? Because if the kid got to school, did they reach out to the school to find out what was happening? And if this happened, what would be the reaction of the grandmother to say that we'll handle it? Like, don't go to the police. To me, that's very troubling. Like, why would she suggest that? And her first thinking was like, this might be happening at the school, allegedly. So, these are still questions. Obviously, the authorities are going to dig deeper and then find out. Because according to her, that's the most person that she trusted. But she did have a good instinct of wanting to go to the police immediately.
Yeah.
So what is the culture that they have at the Empire, whereby, the police are secondary, but you know what I mean? You go to the Empire first to see, what the Empire is going to say about whatever the situation it might be. So a lot of answers, still questions and answers that still need to be put forward. But, we are here for it all. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and so I think she did say that because of what the daughter said, it was a boy. So because she said it was a boy, that's why it was assumed that it was the school, pretty much from what I'm understanding here. Mm-hmm. So it was only once getting the description of the quote unquote boy that is taller than daddy, that's when it was like, this is a man. This is a man who has done this.
Yes.
And so, I can only imagine the shock at hearing that now. That just took everything to a whole new level for her.
Yeah.
So very, as we've been watching this story, man, there's so much that is bothersome as to how, things had happened to the little girl. So let's go on to question number 3. Okay. I think that's where it was. What I'll do is I'll try to take it back a little bit because it was a little bit of skipping going on here. Let me take it back a little bit and then let's see if we can jump in on question number 3 here.
We do, however, go on that family vacation in August of 2021. This is a big one. This would answer the question of, I guess the first question is, when you walked up that day, why did you not put your hands on the man?
Well, when I walked up there and I saw Pete up there with my daughter, I was horrified. The first thing I started doing was screaming, "What are you doing?" Obviously, since his hands weren't on my daughter, he wasn't in the act, he was just in the room with her. I wasn't at that time about to put hands on him or beat him up, but obviously I was horrified and I was just shouting him down, and that led to him multiple times, probably 50 times, saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." So again, it felt like I caught him red-handed and doing something that he shouldn't have done. And as evidenced by the fact that Suzy saw him follow up my daughter after she had told her to change into her swimsuit.
Well,
so there's intent.
I'll add this. To complete your answer, first, if that man's hands were on our child's body, that man would have been leaving that house in handcuffs. The police would have been called. When I saw Jonathan, because Jonathan and this man, they came down the stairs from our children's room. I guess Jonathan made him come downstairs. When I saw Jonathan, we've been married at that point, how many years? 10 years?
10 years.
I had never in my 10 years ever seen Jonathan look like this. It was honestly terrifying. His eyes were bloody red. His face was blood red. He was screaming so aggressively. And that man, who is, taller than Jonathan and much more smooth, he was shaking like a leaf. Part of my anger, which I've expressed to other journalists, is that that man was so vulnerable. I felt like he was
on the verge of confessing.
If he had not been protected, he couldn't speak up for himself. I'm going to leave that there. It seemed that way to me. That's how it seemed to me.
Right.
Until the situation was taken control of. So then comes the part about, why did I scream for Jonathan? I screamed for Jonathan because I have a very long history of being extremely compliant and obedient and submissive. And this is not me saying nice things about myself. I don't know if it's even a nice thing. It is just the facts of, I always brought up multiple times and multiple witnesses of my concerns, frustrations, boundaries with my children. I was not allowed on our own children's photo shoots, the Christmas photos that were shown on the TV shows. I wasn't allowed on those. I had to just trust me. The statement, trust me. I had to trust my mother-in-law. I had to trust, that she would take care of them. And I had to do this in service to God. I had to obey and trust. And I'm not naive like I used to be. I was in my early 20s when I had my kids, and it was just programmed from then. You got to trust. You got to trust. Anytime I had any concerns, if I brought up anything that bothered me with my children, any kind of boundaries, I was shut down, scolded. These are traumatic memories. I'm not trying to be a victim. I am not a victim. I'm a very strong woman now, and God has taught me a lot. But this is the process. And that day, I just know. I know I'm not even that smart. I wouldn't have thought of this. In my gut, in my spirit, when I saw that man, I told my kid to go put on her swimsuit. I saw him turn and follow her up those stairs. And I just felt it in my gut, in my spirit, get Jonathan. They will not believe you. And that is the best thing that I could have ever done for my child. Yeah. I wouldn't change one thing, because if I had not, and Jonathan, what did you feel when I came to you?
Yeah, I remember I was brushing my teeth. So I just felt a quickening in my spirit to run. And so
I remember your toothbrush fell.
I dropped the toothbrush. And I ran. I sprinted up because it was on the third floor and I was on the first floor. I had to sprint up the 2 flights of steps. And to my horror, I get up there. There's Pete.
Sorry, I'm a little shaky. This is really hard to talk about. Whew. So Jonathan, I screamed. It was the best thing that I could have done for my child. I truly believe that if I did not scream for Jonathan and Jonathan didn't have such an aggressive, big reaction, today they would not even be admitting that he had followed her up the room or he was in the room. They can't deny it now because of this. And I know that gut instinct, that feeling, I'm thankful.
Absolutely.
Normally, am I a mama bear? Oh, you don't even know. I have gotten into so many fights. I have been beaten down and pushed into submission for being a mama bear. And I thank God with all my heart that the day came when he said enough is enough is enough. Whew, that was an intense one. Okay.
Then a few days later, my father calls me and my brother-in-law into his office. He tells us that Pete has been cleared by this forensic examiner and that we need to submit and move forward.
Yeah, and all we ever...
Okay, so before we get into the next part over there, so let's just go over briefly what they said. So the first part, so I'd actually had kind of put these two together. So they answered these 2 questions. Why did I not put my hands on this man? Because there's a sequence here. All these 2 and 3 happened at the same time, pretty much. Okay, so it was like, we understand from the testimony or from the account given from Jonathan and Suzy that we have this event that happened at a beach house. And so this gentleman, or let's not even say gentleman, but this individual was in the room with the child and she was getting changed and she was naked. And so people were asking, okay, so why do you not put your hands on this man when you go in and this guy is, standing there? And the basic answer here that I'm getting from Jonathan is more like he was enraged himself, and Suzy saying as well that she saw a side of him, an anger in him that she had not seen before. So he was enraged and started screaming at the guy, and the guy seemed to have cowered, and from being a confident, strong figure as described by Suzy here, this person went to being very afraid and just whimpering, so to speak, right? And so in that moment, because the person wasn't physically doing anything, but he was just present in the room, that is why Jonathan says he did not end up eventually actually putting his hands on this individual, because there was no actual act taking place. It was more like this person is here, and so he did not, put hands on him. To jump into 3, he said, why did Suzy scream for me to go up versus her just going up herself? And this is where we have Suzy discussing the culture that they've been brought up in. Okay, the culture that they have come up in, and the culture of her being, submissive and understanding sort of like whose role it is to do certain things, pretty much, it sounds like what she's saying. And so in that moment, when she sees Pete go upstairs, after the daughter goes upstairs, she screamed to tell Jonathan to go and not go up herself. And that was driven by this internal, well-practiced, I would say, part of her character and the way she handled herself and the way she understood things, to allow her husband, to scream for her husband to go rather than her going up. And if you ask me, in all honesty, I don't see a problem with that. If anybody had a problem with that, I don't know why you'd have a problem with that. I think it was appropriate in the sense where it's like, if there's a man going up there, then you want your husband to be the one going up there, if that's an option. And so because Jonathan was there, she called out to him to go. And so that's how he ended up going and not her going. And she also talks about having this deep feeling within her that drove her to just scream out something was wrong. And so she decided to scream and tell Jonathan to go.
Yeah, so that shows this was the second time, right? I suspect that Suzy, they were suspecting this situation. Because why would you just want to, because, everybody's there, it's family. You're there with aunties, uncles, the whole 9 yards, right? So what was it in particular about this individual that Suzy felt that way? So yeah, by her doing that, that was definitely helpful. Clearly, this was the second time, right? So now that this incident happened, I'm sure, yes, our instinct is like, okay, lay hands on him and everything, right? But remember, 2 wrongs don't make it right, okay? So, our flesh would want him to do that, but you know what I mean? That is not godly, okay? If something is wrong, you want it to be handled in a just manner, not by our flesh. So who knows if because this was kind of like a second time, if they had push, what could have happened? But already they were there on vacation. Everybody, no foul, no harm. This guy has apologized. He's, apologizing profusely. So it was just like, okay, maybe, we can look past this, so to speak, right? But then Marcus Jonathan says when all these things happened, they were allegedly brought to Marcus's bedroom, where it was Jonathan and his brother-in-law. And Marcus, the father, pronounced that Pete was innocent. So the question to ask, okay, why was it Jonathan and the brother-in-law going to Marcus's bedroom? And why was Marcus pronouncing that, quote-unquote, Pete was innocent? Innocent of what? Who claimed that Pete was innocent? Who said that, when, where? So all those things, they definitely need to be investigated. All these things is allegedly, okay? But we continue.
Yeah, let's hop right back into it. We'll go from the next part. Yeah, so I think that's what you were explaining here is where he's going to now go into. So let's let him.
Ever knew in our lives, all we had ever done is obey and submit. We had mission for being a mama bear. And I thank God with all my heart that the day came when he said enough is enough is enough. Whew, that was an intense one. Okay.
And a few days later, my father calls me and my brother-in-law into his office. He tells us that Pete has been cleared by this forensic examiner and that we need to submit and move forward.
Yeah, and all we ever knew in our lives, all we had ever done is obey and submit. We had never questioned.
Yeah.
And
so
even though I had big, strong doubts, I was angry. I'm not going to just lie and say that, I moved on. No, it was a big struggle. But the way that we were trained, God is our witness, Jonathan and I, you are going to be the future leaders. You have to take the lower road. You have to bring family unity. You have to do what it takes to be the bigger person. Go golf with him. You go have coffee, apologize to her. Do whatever it takes to be friendly and loving. That is the character of Christ. And we did it with all our hearts. We didn't perform. We weren't fake about it. We truly did it with all our hearts.
Yeah, I mean, it was very difficult, obviously, to move forward after that. So I had legitimate concerns, but at the end of the day, I trusted that my dad had actually gone through the process of clearing Pete with this examiner.
Yeah.
And we moved forward. We still had a very strained relationship.
Oh, we had boundaries with our house. I went to Daystar one afternoon to grab something from the cafe. There was something in the green room, and I had my child with me, and I knew she was scared at this point, so we didn't take her there anymore. We had a nanny at home with her. But this one time, I wanted to pick up something really quick. I go in there. It's in the afternoon. I didn't think anyone would be in the green room. And I take her with me, and it was horrible. I go to grab that box of food, and in walks Pete and, his spouse. And my child was so full of terror, her body went completely limp, and she fell under the table hard. I grabbed her little body, I picked her up, and I ran into the car. And I remember telling other family members about it, the ones I trusted. And it was traumatic. I was like, I'm not bringing my child here. We didn't for a while. But these things were happening. So then we go into this strained part of this relationship. This was the first time in our lives that Jonathan and I weren't having a warm, close relationship with his parents. Before that, we were so tight. And this was very, very hard. I mean, we cried a lot, and it was really painful. We get a text saying, hey, your dad's really sick. Can you come help? And of course, I was like, of course, I'll come spend the night. I'll stay on the couch. He was not in the hospital at this point. So I go stay on the couch, taking care of him, helping him walk to the restroom, do whatever. Because we love our parents, and everything goes out the window at that point. Our child is safe, away from the person we suspect, but we will serve our parents. And we began to do that. From there, the hospital begins. You were there all day long while I was home with the kids. I was there night shifts. I would alternate with another person. Joni was there all the time. But on the nights that I was there, I thank God with all my heart for those nights. I got to really, there was no offense, no anger. I got to love on him. It was a very slow and hard death, but, got to, rub his head because his head would get hot and my hands were always cold. So rub his head, and rub oil on his feet. And I don't know if I should even say this or not, but I had the honor of, after he passed in his body, most people left. It was you and me, and I had the honor to close his eyelids. Just very deeply things that cause trauma. I'd never seen anyone die before. So our child, everything happens with her. Then Marcus dies, and then we go into full gear of Jonathan becoming vice president.
And there's such a small timeline from the time these events happened with Pete and me confronting him in the beach house to the time my dad passes away.
Whew. Joni starts dating this man.
Okay, so let's hop in there because that was a lot there. There was a lot of information given there and a lot of heavy emotional content being given there. So the investigation, or Marcus's dad, allegedly, all this is allegedly, of course, Marcus's dad cleared, I should say Jonathan's dad, Marcus, cleared Pete from any guilt, okay? Said Pete is in the clear, and this might have been maybe around the same time when we heard from the other testimony that, was it that Joni had a dream or something and God had told her that Pete was also innocent in that sense? So maybe this was the same time frame over here. And so all this happens, and then Pete is cleared, absolved of any guilt, and it seems like there's still tension. There's still tension going on. However, with Marcus's illness coming, the focus shifted. So it was like anything that was any ill feelings and all that stuff was like, okay, you know what? Let's put that aside right now, because right now we just need to care for him. And so that's what they did. So they began caring for him. Suzy talks about, actually being there in the hospital, touching him, cooling his head down with her cold hands, and that somehow giving him relief and just being present for him and caring for him. And ultimately, very sad as she details being the one to finally close his eyelids after he passed. And so it seems that there was a genuine care and a genuine love that was felt for Marcus and Joni still throughout this process. And yet these things were not necessarily resolved, so to speak. So issues were not resolved. And then we're moving into where now Jonathan's going to talk about the introduction of Doug Weiss to the whole story as well. But this is how we this is where we're at right now. And so I think what I would be wanting to emphasize is notice that there is no real resolution that took place. Things were not necessarily, at least on their side, it seems things were not necessarily ever all the way good, but with Marcus passing, the focus shifted.
Yeah, so I think this was, ever since this incident happened, it was always on the back of their mind. Remember when allegedly Marcus had pronounced Pete innocent? Now it was like, you know what, you guys just move forward, go play golf, you know what I mean? Just save your mom, just be the bigger person, so to speak, right? Because one day you are going to be the president. One day you're going to take over, who you are going to be bringing the family together, okay? So if that is the case, then why would you be doing something that can allegedly break the family apart? So for the sake of the family unit, for the sake of you getting that position and everything, let's just move past this and just move forward. And lo and behold, this is exactly what was going on, right? But now, that dream is no longer there, okay? They're definitely outside the empire. What else is there? But you know what? Maybe this is now the time we can actually fight for our justice, actually fight for our child. While they were there, okay, because when they go to court, this question is going to be asked. They had their own reasons of not pursuing that. I understand, I get it. But if you go to court, right, they ask like, okay, so why now? Whatever else they're explaining, that is going to be cross-examined in a court of law. They had their reason why they didn't do what they're doing. They have their reason why they're doing that. But will that coincide with the law? You see what I'm saying? Because it's like, okay, you know what? You have a bullet wound, okay? You want to go to the hospital immediately. But your thinking would be like, you know what? I can nurse this wound. I can take it out maybe. But then eventually you find out like, it's causing infection. You know what I'm saying? And then you go to the hospital. But if you had gone to the hospital sooner, you would have saved the leg. Things of that nature. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, this will actually bring justice to them, because this story seems like it's not going anywhere. But the empire is fighting back, for sure.
Yeah. And just for clarification, when you're talking about the hospital and this analogy that you're giving, we're not talking about that that stuff was not taken to the police, because they've already clarified that things were taken to the police. This is more of, we're talking about on the emotional side of things, where things were still not necessarily all the way good. So that is what also is being referred to here.
The other part, they did say that they brought in somebody who did forensic investigation. So who was that person who did the forensic investigation? Was the people in question, right? Where they asked the question, because you cannot interview a minor without a parental consent, right? Without an adult present. Did that happen? So how was this forensic, quote unquote, how did it happen?
Yeah, they answer that later in the video. I think they actually give some information.
So let's see what they're going to say in that.
Yeah, it's disappointing as well to hear what they had to say, if I recall correctly, about that particular matter, about how far things were actually, how thorough this investigation was. So let's continue with this statement.
I'd never seen anyone die before. So our child, everything happens with her. Then Marcus dies. And then we go into full gear of Jonathan becoming vice president.
And there's such a small timeline from the time these events happened with Pete and me confronting him in the beach house to the time my dad passes away.
Whew. Joni starts dating this man. Okay, I'll throw this in there. With all my heart, I wanted her more than anybody else to find love. I wanted her so badly to not be alone. I loved her. I wanted her to be happy. And then she starts talking to him. She says, trust me. We always trusted her. So we started to trust her until it was more October of 2022 when things started to change. We found out more details about divorce. We have Matthew 19. I started talking to pastors to get actual biblical counsel. So that's October 22 is when it started to get really, the tensions arose, panic attacks began, all sorts of things. And then from October, it's building until July of 2023 when I was fired because I stood on my convictions. Won't get into that at this point, but that's what happened. At that point, life got very difficult, complicated. Jonathan was trying to manage what to do.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, there became a giant rift in the family because Suzy had just been fired and stripped away of her ability to do ministry on Daystar after many years. And I also was removed from television to where I could not be on and continue. So we're just suddenly abruptly off television. And I continue on.
While telling the world we were on a sabbatical, which was a lie.
Yeah.
We're not okay with that. We're not okay with lies.
So, yeah, that was their way to cover, is that they would place me on a sabbatical. And so I continue on. I feel strongly from the Lord to continue in my role at Daystar. And I continue on. The board eventually gets to the point where they force me to sign an NDA to be able to stay in my position as vice president and on the board. And that's what you heard the clip of that was posted on YouTube. And I said, no, knowing what I know, I cannot sign an NDA. There had been so much spiritual abuse that we've gone through. There had been obviously questionable things going on with my daughter. But I said, no, I'm not going to sign the NDA.
And that was November 16th was that board meeting. And this is the crazy part. It was 2 days after Jonathan said no to the NDA. 2 days after, November 18th, we get the call, find out it was a cover-up. The people who supposedly did this investigation, both of them said, nope, it was shut down. We did no investigation. That sends me honestly spiraling. I couldn't believe that level of deception and trauma. I mean, I had seen lies throughout, but this level, it was too much for my heart to even bear. I hit a downward spiral. I really did. And at that point, we knew we need to take action. So the best path of action forward was first find a counselor for our child. We went, found a counselor, told the counselor called CPS called the cops, and the detective called me back, reopened the case. Told him what happened on that vacation, all our concerns, and how we're worried about not only, yes, our child is out of danger at this point, we want justice for our child, but it doesn't matter whose child it is. Children must be protected. It's much bigger than just our story, because this person has influence and, can be around other children. Now, I don't know if you've gone through counseling. It's not easy. Counseling can be extremely hard, digging into the places that your mind doesn't want to go, wants to protect you from. And it was really, really hard on our child. That process for a few months, every time she went through a session, when she came home the rest of the day, no one could touch her. She was on guard. Her body started breaking out like it did before. It looked like shingles, but it was eczema. And I started to cry because I was just like, I cannot see my child suffer like this. And I spoke to an older counselor, someone else, who said, God has given our bodies this defense mechanism to protect us. Don't force it. Don't push it. When it comes out, it will come out in God's timing. You have to trust God. And so we talked to our counselors. That counselor said, go on a trip, let her rest, let her be a child again. Meanwhile, we start getting followed. I know I'm going through this really fast, but there's a lot of details. We're being followed. I'm terrified to go to the grocery store. There's a man taking a picture of me. Outside our house, we see mysterious cars. It gets really bad, to the point, Jonathan, me, and our children, we just packed up, got in the car, and drove for days. And that's how we went to South Dakota.
And that's what we've clearly seen in this year of 2024, is God is cleansing his bride. It says judgment begins in the house of the Lord. And he is exposing all this hidden sin and corruption and bringing it to the surface so we can do a new thing. Yeah. And so this is part of that movement. God is using this exposure to cleanse his bride. And so we went to Julie Roy's back in August. And it wasn't up until November that she actually released the story. And now Daystar is doing their best from their PR machine to try to cover their bases. They're saying that I had a performance improvement plan that expired on November 15th. That's true. However, I was not coordinating a release of my story with the end of that plan. Far from that. We were ready to get our story out in August. That's when we went to Julie. However, she had a lot of other things on her plate.
Well, she had to do a deep investigation. This is the part that is important, I believe. Julie didn't just hear our story and feel bad for us and start writing. We gave her hours and hours of worth of recordings and meetings. She went through so much. She has done due diligence.
It's a very extensive story. There's a lot to it. We gave her a lot of information. I gave her over 12 hours of recordings.
Yeah.
So from between getting all the other things off of her plate to the time she began getting into it and doing the investigation, it was from August through November. Julie, it's her due diligence to contact Daystar and my mother and the family members to get their side of the story. So she contacts them on Friday, November 15th. And I was subsequently fired the following day on a Saturday, November 16th. Now, throughout my time at Daystar, no employee has ever been fired on a weekend. We just don't do that. We fire people typically at the end of the day. A lot of times it's on a Friday. So there's proper exit procedures. So this was clearly a retaliation from me talking to the media. They wanted to fire me immediately after that. It's the day after June.
Okay, let's come in here for a second. So, wow, a lot said there again. So we picked up from the chapter of, okay, Marcus is no longer with us. And then now we have the entry of Doug into the picture. from the beginning, there's some apprehension, it seems, about this union. And then they chose, or they tried to kind of go along with things, but still had some issues along the way. And then what was interesting is how the introduction of the fact that this story, like the timeline of, okay, information being given to Julie Royce, and then when things came out and the firing, I found out that to be interesting because we then learned that they went to her in August. Okay, they went to her in August, and it took, September, October, November for her to actually get in touch as she's doing her investigation. And then as she finally gets around to speaking to the Daystar, asking them some questions about the issue. And it's at that point, so we did hear that at that point when they heard about it, when Daystar was made aware of this, allegedly, that's when the firing took place. So we see that there was things happening behind the scenes before it broke and went public. And that's a good number of months right there. It's a good number of months right there. And why it doesn't, he clarifies as to why that doesn't coincide with this whole issue of this performance review being the issue as to why he was being removed. And, one of the big issues in this whole thing. So I never thought the performance review thing was that convincing when I heard about it, that would be a big enough reason for you to get rid of an employee, and especially if you're talking about the vice president of the company. And then obviously he got demoted, but it just didn't seem like that was sufficient, a big enough reason for him to be fired or to be even one of the main issues per se. But it seems to be that this was the bigger issue. And once that was known to Daystar, allegedly, that's when he was removed, and it was done on a weekend, which we're being told is not even the regular procedure over there. But this was just like, let's get this guy out of here, is the picture that we're getting.
Yeah, so I think there is some conflicting information on that front as far as Jonathan's firing. Okay, so he who states his case first seems right until another comes and examines it. Jonathan and Suzy are on record, okay? They're on audio where they had a meeting with Johnny, Jimmy, Suzy, and Jonathan. And throughout this meeting, it was you either going to submit to the authority at Daystar, okay, which is Johnny, or else you have to leave, okay? So Suzy wasn't willing to do it, so she left. This recording was July 2023, and Suzy was also fired in July 2023, right? And after that, since 5 months, Suzy, was posting some videos, some stuff, whatever, on her Instagram page that, if you go back now, you read it, you'll be like, oh, okay, this must have been the things that were going on. And Jonathan, it is true, Jonathan was fired on November 16, and November 15th, he was presented to sign some NDA, allegedly, and that is on audio. So he stayed because he did say he was going to submit to his mom, right? That was in July. So he was fired in November. So the question is definitely there. Okay, so was Jonathan fired because there were these investigators who were questioning the empire as to this, that, and the third? Is that the reason why they fired him? So that would actually make sense. Okay, you say you're going to submit, okay, but now why are we hearing this type of stories coming from outside and everything, right? You know what? You have to go. So Jonathan's position is he got fired because there were some investigation going. He was talking about this situation, right? That's why they let him go. On the audio, it was you either submit to the authority here at Daystar, to the president, which is Johnny, or you go. You decide. So we are yet to find out when all these things come about. But the other question that I do have, right? They say they've given this to the investigators, right? The investigation is underway. Is it wise for them to be speaking publicly while the investigation is going on? I don't know. It's good for us. We're able to analyze. We're able to have this content. But doesn't that jeopardize the investigation? I'm wondering. I'm asking. And all the information that they say so far, they say they've given it to the journalists. Have they also given all that information to the investigators, or they just gonna let the investigators find their own information? And the other question that I have, Suzy says that she was disappointed because she found out later on what she was told, that there was quote unquote forensic investigation that never happened, that never took place. So how come she didn't know about that? Because if her child was never questioned, that would be the first place to ask. Because if you're asking if something has happened, you are going to ask the accuser and the accused, right? These two people need to be asked questions at the minimum. So because she was a parent, her child was a minor, there's no way anybody would have investigated, asked questions to her child without the parents knowing. So even if the investigation had taken place, so to speak, right, couldn't she have wondered, like, okay, but my child was never asked. Nobody contacted us that they wanted to see our child to find out more about this. Because how else are you going to investigate something that is involving your child and then nobody ever asked your child? How else are you going to ascertain the truth? So I don't know how it took place or what. I'm wondering about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, there could be some details there that need, further clarification. As they said, this is a short video. There's no way to give everything in this short time. And I do think as far as the question of them coming forth and saying something is just going to harm, an actual investigation. There's no case. Nobody's been charged. It's once somebody gets charged and there's an actual, case that's been brought forward or there's a charge coming forth, that's when it's difficult for you that's when it may be a little bit unwise to say something because it's an ongoing thing. But when it is in this stage and where this is actually the reason why they're doing this is to give awareness, then that's why, you would, come forth. So the thing was to bring awareness. And I think that's what they made clear, that the reason for coming out is to actually make things known. And as we go back to the beginning, they did mention that, hey, they just felt like this, we just need to let people know what's going on. And there was even, from Suzy's perspective, at least not even a certainty of how far the story would go. But now we know that it's actually even reached secular publications as well, mainstream publications, I should say. New York Post has got it, and they're reporting on it now. So this is the reason why somebody does something like this, is to make their case known to the world and to sort of bring awareness to it. So I believe that was the main reason. And it's seemingly taking steps to not divulge information. I mean, we still don't have the information of the, alleged perp in this whole situation of the issue with the young child. So I thought we would just, I'll just add that to that and to what you were talking about there, Ms. Burry and Babes. So let's go ahead with the next portion here. I'll just take it back a little bit. We're actually closer to the end here of the clip, but we'll take it back a little bit just to roll into it a little better.
And my mother and the family members to get their side of the story. So she contacts them on Friday, November 15th. And I was subsequently fired the following day on a Saturday, November 16th. Now, throughout my time at Daystar, no employee has ever been fired on a weekend. We just don't do that. We fire people typically at the end of the day. A lot of times it's on a Friday. So there's a proper exit procedure. So this was clearly a retaliation from me talking to the media. They wanted to fire me immediately after that. This is the day after Julie reports her story.
And how did they do it? Who showed up at our door? This is why we left our house.
We made that video earlier. Said we were going to go into an undisclosed location. We did. And of course, Daystar security guard came to our front door in a bulletproof vest with a gun.
Weapons.
And posted my termination letter on the door.
And it's the same man who stuck the tracker in his car.
Yeah, so that's, again, the Daystar Mafia coming after us. And so we were at a safe location, thankfully. We didn't have to deal with him.
We saw it on the camera.
But we saw it.
Okay, so here we are. Julie gets everything ready. Candy is a friend, a journalist who also wrote her article. she has a bigger, she's shared more things that Julie is going in much more in-depth detail because she'll release recordings and evidence. Candy told our story. I met Candy months and months ago, started talking to her, I think in July, because all year from January of 2024, I had been begging God and waiting, or what are you going to do? Are they going to repent? It was a year of torture. Jonathan standing and going to the office every day was not just him holding on to a job. It was him in obedience, dying to self and going there while I was at home traumatized, shaking. What else are they going to do to threaten us? The final question of why are we going public? I think our answer explains why we had no other option. But I would say the baseline is it would have been much easier. We would have been okay to quietly walk away and keep our private lives private. Everywhere we went, people wouldn't look at us weird. And think about this, okay? Our child, this is the rest of her life. I would never share another victim stories. I know many other stories that I could tell, which would make our case stronger from the same ministry. Mm-hmm. But I will never, I don't care if it helps me or not, because justice comes from my God. I will never tell another person's victim story. I was never going to tell my story, what happened with that chiropractor, especially because he has a daughter and I met her and I loved her genuinely and I never wanted her to see this. Yeah. But here we are.
We did the beautiful thing of standing in solidarity with our daughter.
I had no option. I couldn't put my child out there while hiding. Just had no option. But if it was up to me, I would never tell that story to anyone. So you can see the weight on our shoulders as parents to go and tell the world this about our child. It is something I could only do with the full force and strength of God to do this. I tell you this before God. We have no unforgiveness, no anger, no agenda in our hearts. We want to see, as we obey God and we put our lives in the line, we have counted the cost. We put our family and our story out there for God to take these ashes and make it beautiful. In that same way, we want to tell you we love and we bless them. So we don't want anyone to attack them, but we do want accountability with all our hearts. Every leader, if you are on a platform, you should be bold enough to answer any questions and be cross-examined. If you can't do that, step back. You are not here to be a pastor or a leader and be a coward. Either you do the job with transparency and accountability, or don't, but that has to be a standard. So I encourage you all, ask questions. Don't be scared. Don't just submit and be scared, because we came out of that really controlling submission culture. And now I will always teach, we submit to one another. God is our covering and the written word of God. Sorry, I get a little passionate there, but I just really want to tell you, we love our family. We forgive them. We're not sitting here angry at all. We have joy and peace in our hearts. And now that the truth is out there in the world, we don't know what comes next. We just know that we have obeyed God. And as we have done to this point, we will go forward and he will do what he does with our lives.
That's right. And the Lord has really led every step of the way, and we continue to trust him as he directs our path. So that's an encouragement I want to give to you, is let the Lord direct your path. Stay tuned. We'll probably do some more updates as the days go by, but we love you all. Thanks for watching.
All right. So that was the conclusion of the video. So again, we appreciate the clarifications on what they were able to clarify given the time that they had on the video. Of course, in this kind of format, it's not possible to give all the information that is necessary. I do appreciate and found it, pretty heartfelt there as they talk about still loving their family. They even talk about forgiving them through this whole thing, and yet still wanting, justice to be served. And I think that that's a fair thing for any believer to have that stance, right? When things you feel that things have been done wrong, that we should seek to find that place where there's a peace. And they talk about having a peace, while yet still wanting things to be done, to come to light and justice to be served. So again, this is the latest video from them, and we shall see if more information comes forth as well.
Yeah, I think there will definitely be more information for sure, because they say they will be speaking to other people, other podcasts. So obviously, if she's going to be a guest, if they're going to be a guest, who knows what platform it's going to be. There will be other questions people are going to ask in those platforms, and they will, if they can speak to it, they'll speak to it. If not, they won't speak to it. But it's good that they've given this story that it's in the hands of the authorities. So we're going to hear what's going to happen from there. But we also know that, mommy out there has already put a statement that they take these allegations seriously and they are prepared to defend themselves, and they are going to do that, and they will, and they are already doing it. So as we say, allegedly all these other things, right? But one or the other, truth is going to surface. Truth is going to prevail no matter what happens. Who said what? Who said? Because right now, whatever they're saying, this is their side of the story, okay? The empire has its side of the story, so all these things are going to collide sooner or later, and the cross-examination is going to take place, and the truth will withstand any cross-examination, okay? So we're going to wait for that. But all in all, what is not in dispute is like something happened to this young girl. So it is definitely good for that young girl to get justice. It's never too late to administer justice, okay? So we trust and believe that will take place sooner or later.
Yes, and the best part about that is even if justice is not met or you know, the level of appropriate or required justice is not met in this day and age that we have here, that we live in, the Lord will always administer the appropriate justice.
Yes.
When the time comes, and whether that is a person here or it'll be later. But we know that the judge of all the earth will do what is right, and we cannot beat God at administering the appropriate judgment. And so we know that all that is done in the dark will come to the light.
Absolutely.
Want to get to the chats now. Thank you all so much for hanging in there with us and being with us as we go through this video. Shout out to Doki Doki Bible Club.
Thank you, Doki Doki.
Thank you. Appreciate you for with the super chat right there. Thank you so much. And we have LS as well. Super sticker 499 from LS. Hands.
Thank you, LS.
He says hands doing a high five. Thank you. Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Yeah, let's get to some of the comments here. So many thoughts here to go through, but we'll try to answer some and just see what you guys are saying here as you view this. So LS says it is hard to get past cheating in a marriage. Joni was probably horribly lonely in her marriage too, Marcus. Easy. Oh my gosh. Sing the song, Why Don't You Love Me
Tonight?
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, I mean, however it went down, just seems there's some questions there, and it's not just from, you know, it seems it's not just the kids, but people on the outside have some questions about how all that went down and how that whole connection was made. Suzy did say in the video that she, you know, didn't want her to be lonely. So it seems like it wasn't necessarily merely that, okay, the mom is now, you know, has found somebody, but it was more the questions around a particular individual seem to be what is the bigger thing here, and how also that individual's, you know, divorce came about in a very short time close to Marcus's passing away. So that's the issue there that, you know, we see there.
Yes, children must definitely be protected at all times. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, so Sarah B. clarifying Moses, they went to the police twice. Yep, it was twice. Moses Tyson. Let's see. Usually, if men have dominated mothers, they
marry dominated wives.
Well, I mean that's a comment. That's a thought there. You know, but men they do say that men tend to have you know, women that seem to be dominated. But I don't know necessarily how that, you know, plays out in this story. I don't know how that's playing out, or if it's playing out. Per se, but I think she's somebody with
strong.
She's a firm person. At least she's saying what she wanted to say. Even when you hear some of that audio that was going on and the interaction, she's clearly, you know, just speaking very plainly as she's interacting with her mother-in-law there. So yeah,
Yeah, but even if that is the case, right? People have personalities, which is fine. However, how should a woman behave, right? The scripture is clear how a woman should behave. So whatever behavior you have, if it's not in keeping with what the Word of God teaches, right? You are to submit your behavior, right? Those are the things that you need to adjust. Those are the things that you need to change to be a good and godly woman. Otherwise, those things are just not going to happen. Okay, so, there are certain things that we tend to do that we shouldn't be doing. So, yeah, there's some truth to what you're saying, Yeah, anybody can be redeemed. Anybody can be redeemed.
So you're trying to keep up. Rhonda said, I believe that's why Jonathan was fired. Yeah, not sure the context there. Obviously, kind of.
I think at the
it's hard to
beginning
follow
there, as to
where this was. Yeah,
asking some questions, started fighting back for their child. I think, I could see why she would get fired.
Let's see what's going on here. Yeah, a lot of comments.
I know, so many comments. Thank you guys for being
It's
here.
hard to keep up. It's hard to keep up.
Happy
I'm trying
Friday.
to go through. Yeah, try to go through.
Happy Friday. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like, okay? Fight the algorithm monster.
Yeah, this is an interesting statement from Eugene. Greetings to Eugene. Daystar's always been suspected doctrines related to New Age and Eastern. Man, I mean, I think that this is the issue with Word of Faith stuff, period, right? So Word of Faith stuff, hyper charismatic teachings, you're going to find these sort of things being the case, man. And as we view, even if you look at like a TBN, it's the same thing, right? And the people that got the book deals, the people that got the bestsellers and all that stuff, it's like you look at what's being taught, man, a lot of it is questionable. A lot of it is questionable.
Yeah, for sure, yes. In our opinion, they seem to host a lot of heretics.
Yeah.
Compared to
Allegedly.
Other networks, allegedly.
Right, everything's got to be. Let's see what else we got here.
Lulu, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Shout out to you guys. Nice.
Yeah,
Yep. Bright Light, good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. Good to see you. Thank you, guys, for representing tonight.
Okay, I got to stop that so I can see the comments. There we go. All right, so you got...
As soon as she saw Pete following her daughter, she should have stopped in his track. Oh,
yes.
Yeah,
This is tough, man.
You cannot just be... like when you're suspecting somebody, so they might not be doing anything, but just because you are suspecting somebody, you start like everything they do, it's like your antennas, they go up. So, and then this is a family member, some certain things might just be awkward, But it was even good, it worked out that Jonathan was there, at least that provided that witness. You see what I'm saying? As opposed to the like, you're just saying this because you don't like Pete. But now it's like, okay, Jonathan had to see that with his own eyes. So at least you have two people who were able to witness this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It adds a little bit of weight to it. And it seems like, Marcus was the one who was going to handle this. They were okay. Marcus was there and everything. Once Marcus was removed, once Marcus died, so it was like, hey, man, who else is going to advocate for us, right? So it looks like Marcus dying did present a big void for these two, and you can understand, And before, I suspect, like, okay, you know what? John ended up getting married, okay, to Doug. So Jonathan is here. Is like, okay, my dad is gone. So if something happens to my dad, he left the empire to my mom. If my mommy dies, is he going to leave the empire to Doug? Then what about me? He's the firstborn. He was promised to take over. So he might have had some trepidations, rightfully so. But, they signed a prenup. So, Doug will never get the empire, okay? He will never have a leadership position. So that's good. Because it's just like, okay, you just came in here.
Yeah, but as regards to her, just back to Bright Light here, I mean, as regards to her not stopping her, the person, the Pete person, I think for me, I think it was appropriate for her to tell her husband. Like, I don't know how, we don't even know the scale or the diagram of where she was standing versus where her husband was and where these steps were and all this stuff and how far all of that. But I do think that in the end, it was better that it was Jonathan in that room rather than her being the one in the room while, this Pete individual was there. I do think in the end, it worked out better that he was there. I think in most cases, in any case, I should say, any rational case, any man would want to be the one to confront the other man and not have his wife being the one there in such an awkward situation, And so I think that was, it worked out well. Could it have worked out differently? Sure. I mean, we just don't know, again, the distance, the map, the layout of the whole thing. It's just hard to tell who was where when they saw, this individual going upstairs. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely, yeah, for sure, yeah. Guys, thank you for being here. Okay, I do appreciate you, but we are 475 likes short with what I'm watching back here. Huh? Give us a thumbs up. Okay? Happy Friday.
Yeah. And let's read some more comments. So, okay, so this is Cliff's thoughts here. Let me read what Cliff had to say. So Cliff said, in Suzy's defense, remember after she saw Pete heading to where her daughter was going, she did go in to make sure I was okay. This is why this came to the light the way it did. Yeah, I need to kind of see. I don't know if that's exactly how it went down or she saw how it was or whatever. Yeah. There
I think that is actually
something.
the incident where she ended up calling the husband and the gentleman was confronted and then he was apologizing.
Yeah, there might be some other pieces
incident?
there.
Okay.
No, not another incident. There might be some pieces as to how, Cliff is thinking through. But from what we understand, this was the same incident. This was the only incident where this occurred, where there was an opportunity for her to call to her husband. Was this one we're referring to, the beach house incident that occurred. So that's what we know of in this whole situation. Augustine St. Clair says, Augustina, that's a nice name, Augustina St. Clair, I pray for complete healing and restoration for this young family in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah, for the whole family. We do hope that there's some resolution because as Suzy said at the end there, as she says at the end, she wants justice to be served, but she doesn't have hatred for her family and that there is still a love there. I mean, we could see by how even them talking about how the interactions were with her and caring for Marcus when he was ailing, right? Mm-hmm. When he was essentially on his deathbed, caring for him. And so there's got to be some genuine love there, despite all the issues that have gone on. And in a lot of cases that tends to happen in a family, right? Like you're wounded by somebody, but because you still care and you love them, you want things to be done, you want justice to be served, but you don't necessarily want them to be destroyed. Your thing is not for them to be destroyed.
Yeah. So, we pray for restoration, justice to be saved, forgiveness to take place. Yeah. But all these things, they just don't happen overnight, right? It takes time. And then trust, like to regain trust, that's another ballgame altogether. But, our God is able to do all these things, right?
Yes.
Restoration, forgiveness, and to bring back trust and to provide justice so people can live at peace with each other. Because these are family members at the end of the day, His blood is involved here.
Yeah. I want to, this is a great one right here. David Ridgway, shout out to David, says, Joni totally misinterpreted the scripture about rebellion is compared to witchcraft. It's rebellion towards God, not to any man or woman. And that is correct. Okay, that's correct. That was said in the video that was done by Julie Royce, and that this scripture, I believe it's 2 Samuel 15. I'm not sure. I think it is 2 Samuel. Or it might be 1 Samuel 15. But so it is the account of King Saul being confronted by Samuel about not hacking the king to pieces, and not killing the king as he was told to do, and not keep any of the spoils. But he decided to do so, and then Samuel comes and confronts him. Y'all are probably familiar with this story. And then when he comes to him, that's when he makes that statement. His rebellion is as, is as divination or witchcraft, depending on your translation there. And that's the one where we get the famous phrase, obedience is better than sacrifice, right? So the Lord would prefer that you obeyed him rather than you coming here with these sacrifices, which you think are so great, and you're actually doing it under the guise of really fearing the people, because that was Saul's thing, right? He did it because it was more about the people, the opinion of the people, and he elevated that over the opinion of God. But all that to say, and that was a lot there, all that to say, that text is not meant for the authority of men, so to speak. I mean, there is doctrines of authority within Scripture, which I would love to, probably in the next video or so, we'll do something expansive on that, because it's worthy to look at, but and very important, because there are different spheres of authority and things that we need to understand as Christians. But that text does not apply in the way that it was used in that video. Yeah. You cannot, if you're really looking at it and exegeting it properly with clear, sound hermeneutics, you cannot get to the point where that text now applies in that situation of the video. And for those who don't know, Berean Babes did do a long live about this. So somewhere in that live, we'll link it down here to what we're talking about right now, if you haven't seen it. And you can also go directly to the source video to see all of that. But that was a misuse of the text. Absolutely.
Yeah, everything you say. And just to add on, those guys, they didn't even have to use that, but they're so used adding scripture, quoting scripture out of context, they don't even know that they're doing it, right?
Yeah.
It's simple. The scripture teaches about authority, and it does teach that we are to submit to the authority that is within us, right? As slaves, obey your masters. There is that relationship. Children, obey your parents. That's there. So all John had to say, according to the scripture, you're called to obey me, right? And we are called to submit. And submission is actually a good and godly thing. We even look at the example of Christ. Christ submitted to the will of the Father, okay? What we have to remember, submission does not negate equality. You are equal to that person. If you're submitting, that doesn't mean that they are better than you. Like, no, that's just how God has designed things, right? Hierarchy is a God designed thing. So Jesus did the same thing. He submitted, okay? Even when he was with his parents, right? He submitted to his parents. So we are called to submit to our parents. We are called to submit to the authorities, right? But that submission, we are not called to submit to something that is evil. Because the submission we are doing it as unto the Lord. Wives are called to submit to their husbands. That's what the scripture commands, and those are the things we're supposed to do. Okay, so we are not called to submit to something that is sinful. We're not called to submit to something that is evil. Even if you don't like your boss for whatever the reason, the Bible calls you to submit, and that's what you do. If they're doing something wrong, the Lord will see to it. But you do it willingly and joyfully as unto the Lord. So you leave the rest up to God. But if you're coming in with your own agendas and everything, God sees that. So that is not submission. You're just giving lip service or eye service. And the Bible speaks against those things as well.
Yep. Agreed. Let's see. Yeah, so many comments. Hard to sift through. I'm trying to get to something here, but
Well, get those comments in there. Okay, don't forget to comment on the videos, okay? We welcome you guys. It's good to see you guys, and thank you for all the comments you're putting out there. But, at the comment of the video, so leave some of the comments over there. It's easier. We will be able to see, respond, interact. It's always nice. But because over here, sometimes, like other comments are way past. things of that nature. But thank you for being here.
Yeah,
we appreciate
if we missed
you.
your
Okay?
comment,
Yes.
definitely feel free to
Yes.
comment in the
in the actual video. Yep.
over, in the actual text over there, and we'll be more than glad to respond in there for sure. God calls it. Okay, so somebody mentioned Rebecca here. This bright light again, saying Rebecca is probably using wisdom. There's wisdom in silence until God calls you to speak. Yeah, man. I mean, I think that this, that's something that has been discussed as to when are we going to hear from her, because we heard from her sister, but we haven't heard from her. And so by what we were told earlier, she was not pleased about any of this, right? By all accounts, that we were informed about. She was allegedly not pleased about any of this, and approached her father about it. And if that is the case, then clearly this whole thing is probably, I'm sure it's upset her very much. So I do think we will hear something at some point. It's hard to keep quiet about this sort of thing if you're a family member, especially in such a prominent family. It's hard to not say anything. So it's likely at some point we're going to hear some kind of statement from her. And it would be, is this where perhaps because there's that fear of impeding an investigation, you don't say anything? That could be the case as well. But I think it would be helpful, just because she's been placed as a witness and somebody who actually said something very significant in this story. And so if that's the case, to hear from her would be helpful, because, that's a person she's not as close to it, so to speak, as, say, Suzy and Jonathan. So sometimes hearing from somebody who's there, but they're kind of, it's not, first person, so to speak, right? They're not the first person to be impacted, I should say. They're not there dealing with an account versus their child, right? But she's somebody who's close enough to it to be able to give some kind of opinion that I think we would love to hear at some point. But then again, that is her right as to when she decides to speak. But I would, I think, appreciate hearing from her.
Yeah, but it looks like this story is ongoing. People are saying what they're saying. Okay, it looks like Jonathan and Suzy will keep talking. So whatever we uncover, it will be brought to you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's much more to address
Yes.
in this matter, and we will do so for sure. Greetings to Brother Alton. Thanks for joining,
Alton,
Brother
good
Alton.
to see you.
Thank you.
Good job tonight, Alton. Good job tonight.
Yes. Definitely check out Alton's channel.
Yes.
Great channel. Subscribe as well. Great channel there. With that, I don't know if there's much more here that we have, or we'll come back with some more information. But we just wanted to hop on, guys, and to go through this video because it just dropped, and I think it's important to give some context, for even us and for you that have been following our covering of it, to be able to say, hey, this is the latest news, and this is what we see in here. So hopefully this was helpful to y'all, and we definitely much appreciate you being with us tonight.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, good to see you guys. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. There is more, but this is what we have brought you to today. So yeah, stay tuned. More coming this week for sure, okay? We'll be back here shortly.
Yeah, once again, don't forget to, like, share, and subscribe to Berean Babes. Subscribe to Seek Things Above TV.
Yes.
Much appreciated. Please have a wonderful rest of the day / evening whenever you're catching this. We'll catch you on the next one. And remember, if then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. All right. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you on the next one. Peace, 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 peace.